Welcome back to the Unapologetically Strong Army Edition podcast. We have an amazing guest today. Tim, would you like to introduce him?
Yeah. So I've known Steve here for I don't know, maybe like half a year, 5 months or so, and got to the privilege of helping him kind of launch what he's doing. And he's very missional mindset and helping vets, and has an amazing experience when it comes to meditation and stuff like that. And so it's going to be really neat guy, really neat guest, and I'm super excited. Let's do this.
Nice. So you're Army, correct?
No, I'm a Marine, actually.
Marine. Okay. That is awesome. So what made you decide to join the Marines?
It's long story short. My grandpa was a Marine from 1957 to 1960. Before he, or after that, he joined the pipe fitters after serving. And when I was born, I was named after him. And so, having that lineage always made me, aspire to be like him. And so, I mean, that's the gist of, I guess, what made me want to go down that road. Yeah.
Heritage and honoring family legacy. And
Yeah, I'm noticing that that's really common in people. Like that's why our son chose the Army, is because my dad was in the Army. And I'm hearing that over and over again from people that they're choosing a specific branch based on their family history.
Yeah. And I think it's my great uncle was also a Marine. Neither one of them are around anymore, but that's been the theme for our family anyway. So and ironically, I didn't get to join when I wanted to join, but as things happen, when I did join and graduated boot camp was 50 years after he graduated in 1957. And so I have a picture of us, at boot camp when I graduated in 2007. So at the same place, same parade deck, MCRD San Diego.
Oh, that's amazing.
I'm very,
so in
my tours in the child care industry when I was working with the at-risk youth and stuff. He was from the Marines, and he was stationed out there in San Diego. And that's a really when people think of that, they usually correlate San Diego with that. Is that one of like the biggest ones or the most known bases? Or
well, it's so for the different branches, boot camp is in different locations.
Huh.
As far as the Army goes, I think it's just whatever branch or whatever MOS you get, you kind of do. I think it's AIT at that base, and then move into your whatever your military specialty is going to be. Navy, I think, is all done at Great Lakes Naval Base north of Chicago near here. And then I don't know about the Air Force, honestly. I don't know shit about the Air Force, but but the Marine Corps, there's only two places to go. And as with everything, we always tease and mess with each other because there's Parris Island, which is East Coast Marines, and then San Diego, which is West Coast Marines.
Yeah.
That they like to call us the Hollywood Marines. So we talk about having to trudge through the mountains of California, and they talk about sand fleas and swamps and shit like that. So
alligators.
Yeah, all that happy horse shit.
That's funny. Yeah, right now, so our son is at Fort Jackson in South Carolina. So like basic training has been obviously a huge topic of conversation for us lately because, he's in week 5 of basic. What, like, from your experience, like, what was some of the hardest things that you went through at basic?
Oh man.
Taking you back, huh?
Well, it's funny too because I sent a video that I saw on Facebook last night of waking up in Marine Corps boot camp. I screen recorded it and sent it to my kids. So 5 a.m., like you wake up to drill instructors screaming lights, 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 and everybody, gets out of bed, gets online and does their count. You have to count off to make sure everybody's there and then go shit shower. Well, not shit shower and shave. That's at the end of the day. You go, brush your teeth, take a piss and get dressed and shit. And that's the start of every morning. Like you're dressed and ready and racks are made in like 5 minutes, and out the door to go to chow. So that in itself was, an interesting, experience.
Let's go.
Yeah. Like, for me, I think one of the harder parts for me was not knowing, like, eventually you learn because for us, nobody had a watch. You never knew what time it was. You never knew what was coming up. You like the complete unknowingness of everything that was going to happen. But eventually you kind of learn that you have to have breakfast, you have to have lunch, and you have to have dinner. So starting to tell time by the sun, like, okay, there's not enough time for us to do something. So we're probably going to lunch next or dinner next. Right. And then usually after dinner, there wasn't any more training. It was more getting back to the barracks and cleaning rifles or, just night routine stuff, basically. So I think that combined with personally for me, because I was out of shape when I went in, I was in great shape in high school, but there was a 4-year gap between when I wanted to get in and when I actually got in. And I just kind of let myself go there for a minute. And it made PT definitely a lot harder than it should have been.
Sure.
Yeah.
Along with staying awake for things like learning customs and courtesies and like classroom work. I was surprised at how much of that was in there too. And so just trying to stay awake
Right.
without getting blasted, to learn about all, because basically, basic training is just to become a basically trained Marine. Like that's all you are, customs and courtesies, regulations and shit like that. And beyond that, like I said, you go to either the School of Infantry or Marine Combat Training after that to learn, those skills. And then after that, you learn your occupational specialty. So, yeah, just getting broken down and molded into what a basic trained Marine looks like in itself is just a wild transformation. Like I don't know how to how to explain it. The stories.
Yeah. We can tell by our son, like, so he went in there, all, his face very kind of like thick and, he did lose a little bit of, but he was right at that edge of the PT mark and that stuff. And then seeing, it looks like at least 20 pounds. Like, I don't know exactly how much, but, he looks lean and mean and, he can definitely kick my ass.
Yeah, I went in, I was overweight, like, because now that they have, height and weight standards. So for my height, when I got in, I was 10 pounds overweight. So I was a diet recruit in boot camp, which meant every meal that we had, I got half rations.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I learned to eat. My favorite thing was eating salad with cottage cheese, at like a dressing, and then half a rations of whatever the hell the food was that time. I lost, 20 something pounds in boot camp for sure. And there's one picture of me. Well, there's a couple pictures of me at graduation, but only one picture of me with the what we call BCGs, the birth control glasses, which were the standard issue glasses because I used to wear glasses, and they were just horrendous. But there's only one picture of me with my buddy Tony, who lives out in California, with those on, and yeah, to see what I looked like, you know, before and after boot camp, like it's such a massive shift, and so
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Was there anything that really surprised you when you first went in? You were like, oh, I was not expecting that.
I think a lot of like I was saying, the training, like, because I think a lot of people expect like 24/7 PT almost, like just get your ass beat constantly, but it's not. I mean, it is that way depending on how you show up. If you get put on the quarter deck a lot for whatever reason, I had the bright idea for some. I on it to this day, I don't know. While we're sitting there cleaning our rifles in the barracks, just everybody sitting there by their foot lockers, breaking their rifles down, cleaning them, and I thought I would whistle, and that was not a good idea. Like, but I was like,
Found out real
I just, yeah, I found out real quick. We don't whistle while we work, I guess. So yeah. But what's really messed up is, I think, the first week of boot camp, it doesn't count. It's where you are like going through all the things. So you gotta like get your hair cut, get your medical stuff done, get your dental stuff done, get your uniforms, like get all the stuff that you need to actually start the process of boot camp. And you have a drill instructor who takes you through all these things, and he's your receiving drill instructor, and he's not like your actual drill instructors. So it's just like, well, this guy's not so bad. Like, maybe this is going to be not so bad. And and then you pick up
you get there.
your actual drill instructors on what they call Black Friday, and you're sitting in front of, in your new barracks, and the commanding officer comes and gives his little spiel, and your senior drill instructor and your other hats are standing there at parade rest just while he talks, and then he turns it over to your senior drill instructor and he gives his spiel, and then he unleashes hell. And that's where and you're like, oh no, it's definitely exactly what I was thinking it was going to be. And oops, I guess.
Did you have some second thoughts there?
Yeah. I think everybody has some second thoughts, like, dude, but it's all mind games. Like, it's once you kind of understand that it's all mind games, and either to fill time or to teach you, confidence and cool collectiveness under fire, like it becomes it just makes sense, right? Like sometimes because you have not a lot of time between evolutions, whether you're going to PT or going to learn some class stuff or whatever you were doing, and they just had to kill some time. So they'll make some shit up. Like their favorite thing I remember was 2 sheets and a blanket. And that means pull your fucking, cause that's what you get to sleep in with your rack was 2 sheets and a blanket. You learn how to properly do your medicine 45-degree corners on each side, and you and your rack mate fucking help each other. One guy on one side, one guy on the other side. You make both of your beds, and they would yell 2 sheets and a blanket. You fucking tear all your shit off and stand on line holding it, and then they would say go, and you count, and then start counting down the fastest 60 seconds you ever heard. Like I can't even do it, is that they literally skip numbers like 60, 59, 50, 54, 50, like I can't even speak how fast these motherfuckers go. And like you learn how to make a rack in like 30 fucking seconds. But inevitably somebody screws up, and then you just got to tear it all off and do it again. And you will do this for a long period of time. Like,
Yeah.
Just to practice over and over again, doing it, quickly and getting it done.
Yeah.
Attention to detail, all that stuff.
I bet you they have an hour or two window just for that. And then the whole thing of like doing it over and over. That's all just part of the script.
Yeah. No, for sure. Like it's all attention to attention to detail, immediate obedience to orders, like grab your mattress and go into the showers, like the most ridiculous shit. And somebody leaves their footlocker unsecured, and now everybody's footlocker is dumped in the middle of the fucking squad bay. And now for the rest of time, unless you guys figure it out, you're wearing somebody else's clothes because like you don't have enough time to actually pick your shit out. Like the whole point is just to grab all the shit off of the floor and get it back into a footlocker so that, there's nothing left on the floor. And, and it's I've talked to a lot of guys and I'm just like, dude, wouldn't it be fun to go back to boot camp again, knowing what you know now? And they'd be like, oh yeah, that would be fucking awesome. And I'm like, we're psychotic, I think. Yeah. We definitely are.
You wouldn't let it get in your head. It'd be more of like it'd be more like a game now,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, again, the game. So it would be fun. It wouldn't be so much of a head fuck, but.
Yeah. So here's a question for you. So Jordan, he went in older. He's 21. So he didn't go in at 18. He had a career. He was a correctional officer in a maximum security prison. So of course, he has a little bit of an inflated ego, and that's how he went into boot camp. And then he gets there, very respectful kid, but he's like, I got this, walk in the park. And then he gets there and he realizes, I don't think so. Like, did you go in at all with any sort of an ego, or like, how were you going in?
I think I might have had a little, because I went in when I was 21 also. I intended to go in when I was 17. But yeah, I had already had a job, again, following my grandpa's footsteps. And when I joined, even my grandpa was just like, why are you doing this? You don't listen to people very well. And I'm like, I know that.
Probably not a good path for you.
This is, yeah. Why would you want to do something knowing that you're going to have to follow orders because I know there's a difference between following orders from people that I don't respect, you know, that don't know what the fuck they're talking about, and following orders from, you know, drill instructors who are there to make me better, and others that are trying to make me better. So, um, I, I didn't necessarily go in with any kind of an ego, um, because I really couldn't, because like I said, I was not in great shape. Um, I just had some life experience, but that didn't really translate to that. For me, that kind of translated more down the road with the job that I had, because what I had done prior kind of was similar to what I did inside. And so that's kind of where some issues arose. Was, you know, I get like you trying to teach things how you teach things, but I've also done this, right, outside of the military. So you don't have to treat me like, once you get out of boot camp, you feel like you shouldn't be treated like that anymore. And that's not necessarily the way it goes. Um, but, you know, and that's where kind of letting go of that ego, um, is very useful, because it's that mindset that I hear a lot of like business people, you know, even owners, CEOs talk about, like showing up every day just with a blank slate almost, you know, like ready to learn and take in whatever the day has to show you, because there's always something to fucking learn. And if you think that you know everything, then that's not a great, you know, way to approach situations.
Yeah. Great.
Mm-hmm.
So I did have kind of a little bit of an ego later on, but in boot camp, um, I don't remember having any kind of it. I really couldn't have much of an ego, other, you know, other than just like, yeah, I'm a little bit older. I got a few years on most of you guys, and just, let's just get through this shit. You
Yeah.
know?
I could imagine.
Well, it didn't take very long for that ego to be like, okay, we're gone.
Yeah.
So,
That was the impression that I got from him, is like, obviously he's not going to be the king of PT. You know, and you found out recently he's not really the king of the rifle in the shooting either, you know. And he's like, well, I'm not the best. You know, that was kind of his first thing. And it's like, you know, you go in there with a chip on your shoulder, and like, you know, thinking that you'll be the best at something, and you realize that, you know, yeah,
Yeah.
you're not particularly the best.
Right. Yeah, I mean, as with anything, there's always somebody that's better. That one hurt me actually, with bringing up the rifle when we went to rifle range. So as you go through, you know, each week, if you get broken, they send you to the medical platoon, and then once you get rehabilitated, you get to pick up with whatever platoon is, you know, at that week that you got broken at.
Ooh,
So
yeah.
yeah, so like you could be, you know, if you get broken in week 5 and you're better a month later, then your original platoon is, you know,
Oh,
now a month ahead of you, and you're sitting back at week 5. Like, and
wow.
then you pick up with the next
For that.
platoon. Yeah, that sucks for those. So that's a huge thing in boot camp, to like, you don't want to get broken, because then you're just there that much fucking longer. Like,
mhm.
it's 13 weeks. 13 weeks is long enough, right? Like, I don't want to
Yeah.
have to be there any more than I have to be. But when we got to whatever week it was for rifle qual, we did field week and then rifle qual, and we picked up this one kid, and we were doing our rifle qualification day, and I had, at this point in my life, I had never shot any weapon. My family was anti-guns, like, you know, very that that side of the fence, growing up around Chicago. And so I never had a chance, but I'm a good learner. And when we did rifle qual, like, I was a great shot. My coach actually gave me I don't know if it was actually his, probably not, but he said it was, just for motivation. Like, here's my rifle expert badge. I give this to the company high shooter, and this and that. Well, I was the morning relay, and then we had the afternoon relay, and I shot out of 250 a 240. And he's like, there's nobody going to beat, basically, you got the company high fucking score. And this dude that picked up with us that week shot a 241, and I was fucking pissed.
Oh,
Because the company high shooter gets to shoot a live AT4 round at, I don't remember if it was a tank or whatever it was, but
Something
to
cool.
shoot a live fucking rocket, like, I missed out on that. I was pretty pissed. But like you said, there's always somebody that's just a little bit fucking better sometimes.
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
So, tell us the difference for people that might not know. Is Navy the ship? Is the Marines outside of the ship? Are they kind of one and the same department? Like, give us a little bit of scoop on that.
So the Marines are a department of the Navy. We technically fall under the Navy. We are the men's department of the Navy. As we will always say, the Navy is our Uber. Marines will go on Muse, Marine Expeditionary Unit, that go on ship with Navy, like wherever the ships, are going, guys go on the Muse. But the Marine Corps itself, has our ground troops, our air troops. We do amphibious assaults from the Navy ships. So that was one of the big things that Marines were known for, is the amphibious assaults and the vehicles that come with that you can storm with a platoon or a group of guys, take the ship out. And we have capabilities basically for everything. Whereas, the Army is mostly your ground troops. They do have some air support too, right? The Navy, you think of mostly your ships, and that's about it. But they do have aviators as well. And then the Air Force is mostly your air people, right? Well, we do a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
So that's how the Marine Corps works. It's a hodgepodge of everything. And it's, yeah, like there's no end to what we can or can't do. Especially, like we like to say, with little to no gear. Our Army always gets all the high speed stuff. We went back when I was going through boot camp. It changed shortly after I think I got through boot camp. We still rifle qualled with iron sights. So, and then eventually they moved to the ACOG. And so now everybody uses ACOGs to do rifle qual. But, that's kind of something that we have a massive tradition and pride around, which is doing more with less.
Yeah.
You know, you give us nothing, well, we'll fucking make it happen anyway. You know,
Mhm.
there's no excuses. There's no, you know, well, we can't. No, we're going to. It's just how, you know,
Yeah.
finding the way,
Yeah.
basically.
Were you in for?
I did 4 years from 2007 to 2011.
So you've probably seen some action then right there with the end of Obama, yeah? Or the start
Yeah,
of
I went to I went to Iraq in 2009, from February to September. My job was nuclear, biological, and chemical defense. Um, so it wasn't like the unit that I was attached to was called CBIRF, the Chemical Biological Incident Response Force. We were based out of a naval base in Maryland to respond to the national capital in case of any of those incidents, like the anthrax and the ricin things that happened.
big, yeah.
Yeah. So my platoon sergeant actually was part of CBIRF at that time and was part of those responses, or at least the anthrax. I'm not sure if both of them. I can't remember, but in when those happened. So when I was being taught at the schoolhouse, you know, our occupational specialty doing this stuff, he was staff sergeant at the time. Quigley became a warrant officer after our class, and yeah, he was part of that response force that went there, and one of the reasons that I wanted to go to CBIRF because it was all the cool shit, versus normally in the fleet, guys that are in NBC generally just teach other Marines how to wear their chemical gear, their mop suits, with their is what they're called, their gas mask and stuff like that. Like we were the guys that people hated because anytime you've seen a video or a picture of guys coming out of a gas chamber puking and snotting all over themselves, that was us. We were the ones that were like, all right, guys, get in the chamber and we're going to show you how your gear works. And
Yeah. Maybe knows a little
which
bit about
was,
that.
you know, fun when you're on that side of it. But, but in boot camp, that was another fun part was when we went through the gas chambers in boot camp, the dudes that were running the gas chambers there were like, hey, we any 5711s? And there was like 3 of us that raised our hands because that was the MOS number for us. And he had us go inspect the gas chamber without gas masks. Like, so we had to walk in. He's like, yeah, I need you guys to, you know, just walk around the perimeter, make sure there's no like mice or anything in there, you know. And so we go in there and there's residual CS gas in there. So we're just like, our eyes are burning and shit. And like, we come out and like, no, there's no mice in there, sir. And like, oh, good, good. Well, Fred was the dummy, like just this big, you know, mannequin dummy thing, weighed like 200 pounds. He's like, yeah, you know, I think Fred, he needs to be put in the other corner so we can get everybody in there. So why don't you guys just go move him, you know, to the out. We go in there and fucking drag Fred's stupid ass to the other corner and like did like 3 or 4 times of this shit, just going in there without any kind of, you know, respirator on or whatever. And, just to fuck with us, you know, that was,
Wow.
Show you what it looks like to the importance of your mask. You know, check out these guys, right?
exactly. Yeah. Like this is, and this is what you are getting into. So that hair is amazing. Anyway, yeah. So that was, that was part of the fun. And yeah, that was a tangent. Anyway, going into CBERF was a little bit different because we weren't doing gas chamber stuff like that. We were training to go downrange in live, environments like that. So we would have to be in level B suits, SCBAs, all our chem gear. My platoon was identification and detection, and we were the first ones downrange checking for, any looking for casualties to have the extract guys grab, trying to find things to take samples of to send back to our guys that were in the different vehicles. One was the mobile lab that eventually I became part of that team doing stuff in the mobile lab, where we had a lab grade GCMS that and a level 3 glove box that we would pass things through and take samples of and then put it in the GCMS to do confirmatory analysis of these different substances that people would take samples of. So a lot different than, just running training and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So
You guys are training for real life scenarios yeah.
Yeah, with a lot, more high speed gear like that only our unit really had. And so we had an augment of 2 of us in Iraq with some of this high speed gear, that we would, 2 guys from our platoon would go as an attachment to whatever Marine Expeditionary Force was out there at the time. So I was part of the 2nd Marine Expeditionary Force, which was out of Camp Lejeune. And so I had to go down there for training, getting ready, workups and stuff, before we went over. And then a lot of the time I was just a Seaburn watch guy in the G3, which is where all the I just watched pretty much everything in the western province of Iraq, unfolding in front of me because I was low man on the totem pole, surrounded by brass and higher ups, basically, because we were there to advise, the general and majors and whoever else in the event of a Seaburn issue of any kind, as well as I had to fly to different bases to resupply them for a special operation thing that we were doing. So a lot of good times going out on a convoy. Oh, that was actually probably one of my favorite things was going out on a convoy with my platoon sergeant that trained me in Seaburn. So
Wow.
that, I mean,
So neat.
he was attached as a warrant officer to an MP platoon and was out there, and we both got, or his MP platoon, we had to take an Army major and a civilian doctor to this ammo supply point in the middle of nowhere in Iraq that they wanted to see. So I got to go on this convoy with all of our high speed gear to, verify that there was no,
that they weren't getting set up or going to have to be dangerous, right?
Right, that there was nothing dangerous, so they could go, walk around the site and do their assessments and whatnot. But yeah, getting to go on that convoy with the guy that trained me in my job was really, really fucking cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, how much did mindset have to like play in your time in the Marines?
I mean, really, I didn't really know about that stuff, when I
Mhm.
was in, but it really is pretty much everything. And that's kind of how I address, fellow veterans with it now is like, you guys have learned this stuff. You just didn't know it
Recognize, yeah.
because, it wasn't taught to you in that way, but attention to detail and being, mindful of your surroundings, operational security, um, when you're clearing rooms and stuff, you have to be focused and present in basically a meditative state of awareness. Um, but nobody calls it that. It's, you know, stay vigilant, stay, aware, be, don't, you can't be in your mind. If you're in your head, it just takes a split second for something for you to be not paying attention and something bad can happen. Um, you see that a lot with, you know, the IEDs and stuff that we had to deal with out there. Cause that was a
Yeah,
huge, that
man.
was the new wave of warfare, when these wars happened was what in the hell are we going to do, with these IEDs?
Yeah, couldn't imagine stepping on something like that. And oh my gosh.
Right. Well, and I mean, there was so many different versions of them too. There was, for a while there was the cell phone ones, and then eventually all
Yeah,
the convoys got radio jammers, so that those were obsolete. So then it was either, a pressure plate or sometimes even just a wire ran, and there was actually somebody nearby that was just waiting for whatever time to, trigger it.
yeah,
Um, But yeah, it's like, so anytime you got out of the vehicle on a convoy, you have to do your 5 and 25 meter checks just to make sure that there's nothing that looks out of the ordinary, that, so you don't step on the wrong thing. Um, so yeah, it, it really is, you know, probably the core of everything. And I think people got burnt out being in that state, of hypervigilance, um, so often. And it always made me wonder if that's why so many guys don't really want to feel into that space
Mhm.
of, being meditative or, mindful, because it kind of triggers going back into that place where you had to be, but for not the greatest reason, because it
Yeah.
obviously was, um, just to stay alive.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't even imagine. Um, so what do you do in those moments, like to really push through? Because, like, as a civilian, I can't even imagine going into that kind of situation. But you had all that training. Like, how do you push through those moments?
Well, that's the purpose of boot camp, is it becomes a second nature, really.
Hmm.
Um, you're not really thinking about like all of this. Yeah, you're in a meditative, like mindful awareness place, but it becomes a flow state of you're not even really thinking about, like, if I think back now to some of the, stuff that we did, it's kind of like, wow, that was actually pretty fucking, you know, messed up, or
Hmm.
just weird to think of, wow, I held, this live mustard agent or VX nerve agent, and I just didn't think anything of it because it was part of my job, and I knew that the gear that I was wearing would protect me because I'd gone through so much training and knowledge around it and wearing it properly. And I think that's the whole point of getting that stuff, just beaten into you, that it becomes a second nature, that it becomes that flow state, and you're not really thinking about, because again, if you take, a second to think about something or to not listen to an order, then that could be fatal. So, um, it,
Well, and that makes sense too with some of the stuff you go through in basic training, like we were talking about earlier. An hour, 2 hours on just making the beds. Or you think of some of the things that's like, well, that just sounds dumb. Why would you spend that much time doing it? And it makes sense looking at it from this perspective that it didn't make sense, but it really drilled in you. Like, don't think, just do what you're told.
right.
So when you're in those situations, don't think, do what you're told, go back to your training. You got this.
Yeah. And that's exactly why they do that stuff, is to drill that in so that you don't, instant obedience to orders is one of the biggest things. Because again, if, you're in a firefight and somebody tells you to do something and you don't do it, then, either you or somebody else could be a casualty from it. So yeah, that's the whole point. And again, you don't understand that going through it. And maybe not for a while. It took a long time for, me to understand that's the psychological process that is going through, because all is what they tell you, which is, we're going to break you down and build you back up. Like, that's the whole purpose of boot camp, is to break you down to nothing and build you back up into the way that we need you to be as a basic Marine. And that's just part of the process. It's just not said that way. It's, I don't know the purpose of it not being said that way. Probably, again, so that you don't overthink the shit. But, yeah, that's the whole reason behind the way that they do things that they do, is because it works. I mean, our the Marine Corps was investigated because of being so good at getting headshots during a period of time in Iraq, that they legitimately thought that we were like executing hostages and shit like that, because our training is just that good. Like, and after the investigation, it was found like, no, that's not what they're doing. They're just that fucking good at shooting. And that's just how we're trained. Like, there's no, we train to be the best at everything that we do. And so that is another thing that is drilled. And that's why we have that arrogance and ego, about us compared to all the other branches. We all love and support each other as fellow, brothers and sisters in the armed forces. But every Marine's going to fucking tell you that, we're the best, straight up, because that's why we're the few and the proud. Like, we don't take no for an answer. We don't stop until the mission is complete. That's just being a Marine.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah. So what is like, there's so much sacrifice on the soldiers aspect and then the family and all that, but what is like a sacrifice that most civilians don't even know on whether it's more so the soldier's part, but it could even be family or whatever. But what's like a sacrifice that most people don't even recognize?
I don't know.
I stumped you.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few things, and I'm just like, the first thing that came up when were asking that is me and my buddies at one point we were thinking to ourselves, because technically our job is 24/7. Like, there's no off. You know, even though you're especially with the unit that I was with, we were literally on call 30 days for the immediate response force. You were on call for 30 days, and then the IRFB would be on call for 30 days, and you would just flip flop every 30 days. One IRF was on call. And so at any point in time, you could get, called 2:00 in the morning, whatever, to, for a drill or a real life event or whatever. And we got, we sat down and thought about it, like, hey guys, what is our actual hourly rate? If you consider what we're paid monthly, which I think when I was in, a PFC or a private was like $1,100 a month or some shit. I can't remember. So you break that down, hourly, hourly for 24/7. And it's like 70 cents an hour. Like, man, we don't make shit. So, and then, they house you, like what's kind of messed up too is they house you in the barracks, which are not great. For the most, some people get newer barracks. The Air Force always has the best barracks, so fuck them. But, I mean, our barracks were filled with asbestos and mold that were being abated while we were living in them. And they charge you like if you look at your actual pay, it's like, I don't know, $3,000 or something a month, but they take out, $1,800 for living in the barracks and then providing you food at the chow hall every fucking day, which is not great food either. Much love to all the chow hall people, but, and them doing their jobs, but they were not given great things to work with either. So, just dealing with that day to day, again, is kind of its own sacrifice. You don't make a whole lot. I'm forced to get a fresh haircut every single week by Monday morning. That costs $20, and I'm making $1,000 a month. So yeah, just living on basically nothing, and being at the beck and call and ready to do whatever needs to be done. It's just a wild thing to have to deal with, especially, I'm guessing, for your son as well, going into that from having a job that may pay fairly well. Like, I had a job that I was making probably twice that a month. And then people thought I was insane. Like, why would you do this? Well, it doesn't make sense to you, and it never will. But, it's just something that I have to and have always wanted to. And it's a passion that I've had. And, but yeah, that, and then just the sacrifice of being around, guys and those that, don't make, since we're talking on Memorial Day, those that don't make it, as well. That was another thing that I mentioned to my kids yesterday to keep in mind. So when I was in Iraq, I was given my birthday was in April, and they let me, you know, have my birthday off. And when you're in Iraq, anytime somebody's killed in action, they go into what's called River City, and that means there's no all communications are cut off with the outside world, incoming or outgoing. So you could be on a phone call with somebody, and all of a sudden the line will just go dead because they have to notify the next of kin for that person through the proper channels. They don't want anybody finding out, through social media or whatever,
Yeah.
that, their loved one was killed. So my birthday, I was hanging in my can, and we went into River City, and that just kind of stuck with me for a long time. That I don't really, up until last year was the first time that I really said I'm going to celebrate my birthday the way that I want to. Because I just didn't have any want to celebrate, when somebody else, a fellow, you know, service member won't ever get to again. Um, and so the guy was a sergeant in the Army. He was a prior Marine as well, Raul Moncada. And that's what I told my kids last night. I was like, hey, I won't see you guys tomorrow, but just for me, keep this fucking guy in mind for Memorial Day, because here's a little story that you probably haven't heard. I've never told you about, and it's little stuff like that, um, that sticks with you. You know, we had we had a guy, um, in our platoon that came a couple months before I got out, so I didn't get to know him very well, but he was also killed in a training exercise later on. I talked to a few of the guys from my platoon. Um, Still, we all get together and see each other and chit chat from time to time. But um, yeah, it's the whole all of that stuff. It's all a level of sacrifice, and it weighs on the mindset heavily if you let it. And it's taken, a long time to get through some things and understand them, where they're coming from, what they're bringing up, whether or not you even want to let it go, because sometimes you feel like letting it go is doing a disservice, even though it's really not. Uh, so there's a lot of different uh, sacrifices that go in, just being away from people that you know and care about. Just as simple as that. Even though we're connected through technology all the time, it's not necessarily the same as you know as you guys know. Um, so yeah.
It's so tough. You know, my dad was in the Army, and he talks about it all the time. Growing up, he always did. But it's like a completely different mindset now. And I think about things so differently now because it hits differently. And so in the past, yes, I always like respected and honored anyone in the military, you know? But now it's like I never thought about what people gave up, what they sacrificed, the worry family has for the soldiers, or like how are the soldiers doing? Like I just never thought about any of that. And now it's like that's actually so sad. Like, why would it take my son going in to have this perspective now the military, for the military and what these men and women are going through? Like, that's so sad that it took this to get me to the point of having my eyes open. And I'm not even there. I'm not going through what he and all these other men and women are going through. I'm at home where I'm safe and where I'm comfortable. And so I don't know, my whole appreciation and my outlook on the military now is night and day different than what it ever had been. And I just wish other civilians could see and recognize that and give these men and women the respect that they deserve. You were talking about Memorial Day. It's always, this holiday has always bugged me the way it's treated. Happy Memorial Day! What are you doing? Let's get together and have a barbecue. And it's like, we're honoring people who have fallen, who have given up their lives for us, and we're going to go party. And it's just bothered me. It should be more of a day to like honor people, you know?
Yeah, I agree, and I think the best way to do that, and in some instances, like I saw the other day, there was a picture of one of the the crosses at the national grave. I don't know if it was Arlington or maybe a different veterans graveyard, but it had a bunch of cups and a bottle of Jack Daniels there, and a sign that said "Have a shot with Don," I think it was, and it was just a dude from like Vietnam, and I think that's honestly one of the best and most beautiful ways that you could do it. Like, I understand what you're saying. It feels like more of a somber day. Um, most of us veterans are gonna tell people like, yeah, don't. It's not about us. Veterans Day is about us.
Mhm.
Memorial Day is about the fallen. So if you like, I don't think there's anything wrong with having your barbecues and stuff. Just keeping those that fell in mind, setting that placemat, pouring that drink for them, or maybe making it a more uh, social happening with those that you may or may not know at the graveyard, fucking having a shot with them. Like, I think that's an awesome idea. I think that should catch on more. Um, and then go and have your barbecue, but go visit a veteran graveyard and pour a toast to one that you know or one that you don't know, and learn about their story and have a shot with them. So
Yeah.
I I think that's a more beautiful way to do it than, because my view on death has always been a little bit different than most people's. Um, I don't do the somber, I don't. I was there when my grandpa died because it happened during the COVID bullshit, and again, he's a Marine and I was not letting him die on his own. Um, and I know everybody else was, sitting there, broken up about it. And to this day, I still think it's one of the most beautiful stories of my life and how it all transpired. And I don't know how else to say it. He had an amazing life, and maybe that wasn't the best way to go out, but I was there. I was there with him, teasing him. He was in a coma, and I was reading a graphic novel, marine graphic novel from this guy that writes the Terminal Lance comic strip. And every now and then I just mess with him. I get down and do some push-ups and tell him to get his fucking ass out of the cot and come on, dude. What are you doing? Like this shit
Yeah.
ain't over yet. And, in between people FaceTime and calling to talk to him. And then at the very end, like the doctors, come in and say, this is, his all the drugs that they were giving him to keep his stuff going, he's intubated and everything. It wasn't working anymore. So his pulse started dropping, his blood pressure started dropping. And they're like, yeah, this is going to be it. It's not much longer. And that's going to be that. And so it was, again, one of the most incredible things I'd ever seen. I had, everybody on FaceTime on my phone, and my brother played the guitar and my oldest daughter sang a song to him. And as they finished that song, I watched at 5 o'clock on the dot that line just go flat. Like as soon as they finished that fucking song, he just left. And it was beautiful.
Yeah.
So, I don't have any sorrow, when it comes to that. And I think I understand people that do have sorrow because you can't, obviously be with and have all you have is the memories. But I think, celebrating the people and using those memories in a good way is the more better way to do it. But that's my opinion. Everybody has their own way to go about things. But to me personally, I would much rather be happy about somebody, how they lived, what they did, and celebrate all of that instead of, get depressed and sad that, well, I'm not going to have any more time with them again. You can have all the time you want with them in your mind. And that goes back to the mindset stuff too. Like, go meditate, like have a conversation with that person. They're always there in the energetic field. So,
Yeah. Well, and the way I see it too is like if I'm the one that has died, do I want my kids sitting around sad and depressed and, no, I want them to live their lives. I want them to have a great life. Think about me, but don't live in a state of mourning for the rest of your life.
right.
You know?
Yeah.
You know, yeah. That's how I view it too. Um, yeah, I don't want them to be sad.
No. And I think that's what a lot of people say too, is like, don't mourn me. Like, and something to get through. A lot of guys that lose buddies, and they just feel like shit about it. Like, dude, I get it, but do you think they really, if they were here right now, they would probably be talking shit to you for
Mhm.
acting that way, right?
Yeah.
Like, come on, get on with your life, dude.
Yeah.
But it's such a touchy subject for so many people, because it's very emotional, and that's the difficult thing for most veterans in general, is not having that level of emotional awareness. And so when you don't know how to move through emotions, then they just come out in every which way and direction and, strength, like, because we're not taught how to process that shit.
Mhm.
We're taught to bury it, and burying it is never the way to actually deal with it. And so that's why, helping people learn how to process the emotions in a beneficial way and even use them to grow is such an important thing, that I enjoy doing as much as I can. So
Yeah. So do you I'm trying to think back to because Tim knows you way better than I do, but you work with veterans now, don't you?
yeah, I do. I not just with veterans, but with anybody that wants to, because I started with veterans, but I don't want to limit it. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So anybody that, because something that I've understood and learned going through this process is not everybody resonates with certain people. And, you know, if somebody resonates with you and what you're saying and doing, then that's the person that you should be listening to and working with. And so I don't necessarily just stay strictly to, you know, veterans or not. It's, if I make sense to you, if the way that I speak and bring things up and address things makes sense to you and you can understand that, then I'm more than happy to, work with anybody that is a fit. Um, but it is more, men and veterans that I can speak to personally because, that's how most of my identity is male, veteran, construction, uh, stuff like that. So it's easier for me to meet people in that way. Um, but I've also learned different ways to meet people where they are in terms of how I kind of approach the subject of meditation specifically, because again, when you talk about, like you were saying earlier, these mindset and meditation and things, yeah, we learn these skills in the military. We just don't know them. So like I recorded a couple guided meditations that are specifically tie meditation to military things like field day or like the rifle range. Because shooting a rifle is a completely meditative experience. Like you are focusing on your sight alignment, sight picture, and your front sight post. Well, back when we used iron sights, but your front sight post centered, on the target, your breath control, your trigger control, like all of these things are a meditative experience. And so meeting people where they are in terms of what you understand about military protocols and things that we did and how that translates into being meditative or mindful, and then branching that out into, how you can use that in your day-to-day life, uh, as well as um, other things like I was doing an event called Beers and Breathing, and it's, you know where can you meet people at? Well, a lot of people like to use drinking as a way to escape. Well, meditation is not necessarily a way to escape, but to embrace. And so let's learn both, right? While we can drink because there's things called eating meditation, And so I can show you how to experience your drink more, better, I guess, from a meditative space, or your food, uh, whilst we enjoy, these libations at the same time. Um, and one of my favorite things to connect people with recently was, just asking, especially people that say, I've tried meditation. I don't know. I can't do it. I don't know how to do it. I was like, I can promise you you've done it. You just don't know. So let me ask you, have you ever, sat in front of a bonfire, which most people at some point in their life have sat in front of a bonfire or some kind of a fire. And I'm like, now, when you were sitting there and just looking at the fire, were you thinking about anything? Or were you just enjoying looking at the fire without having any kind of thoughts coming through? And I was like, oh, I guess I was just staring at the fire. That's meditating. Like, that
Yeah.
is called fire gazing meditation. You can do that with a candle. Do candle meditation. Just light a candle and fucking look at the flame and just be there with that flame. So there's so many different ways to do this, and all of it just brings you back to like grounding and centering yourself when life feels chaotic. The problem for veterans specifically is that we learned how to be peaceful inside of chaos through learning all these things. It's like, with all the shit going on, a million things happening at once and loud noises and this and that, we're still able to, you know what the mission is, know what we're supposed to do, execute what we're supposed to. But once that noise disappears, it becomes a lot more difficult to find that peace because, well, like, oh, what do you mean? It's already peaceful.
Hmm.
So now I have to create the chaos in order to feel peaceful. And creating more chaos doesn't necessarily bode well. Um, so just learning to live in that already peaceful place, even though the mind might not feel at peace, is kind of one of the bigger challenges for military and veterans specifically. Uh, yeah. Anyway, that
That was good. I've never thought of it like that, where you're so used to the chaos that that becomes your normal and your peaceful place. And then when it is quiet and peaceful, like that's not normal anymore. I've like, I've just never thought of it like that. That is like eye opening, I guess. Because I've never thought of it like that. It makes complete sense.
and and what's funny is that stays with, like, when I'm at work and shit just goes haywire, I instantly, like, become in this meditative state of, like, I just know what has to happen and I execute
Uh-huh.
XYZ. And it's just natural because that's how we were made to be. So
Hmm.
anytime I enter a chaotic state anywhere, like, it's almost easier to execute in a calm, cool, and collected manner because that's how we were trained to do it. But to
Yeah.
be able to operate like that just normally is ironically more difficult. And so, um, yeah, just being able to, realize that not everything has to be chaotic in order for you to execute, um, is a it's a wild transition.
Yeah. I bet. And, growing up, that was something, even as an adult, like that's something that I always really liked about my dad was it didn't matter what kind of situation, like how crazy it was. Like he was always so cool and calm and collected. In chaos, you wanted him because he could take care of whatever it was. And it was like, it seemed like it didn't even phase him. And I love that aspect about him. And to this day is like if something's going wrong, like he's who you go to and talk to. You don't go to my mom, you go to my dad. And yeah, I just always admired um that attribute that he has.
Yeah.
So if somebody wanted to work with you, how do they get a hold of you? How do they find you?
You can find me on Facebook, Steve McHale. I, the Chaos Alchemist on Instagram, um, TikTok, and YouTube are, I think it's the period Chaos period Alchemist on those platforms. Yeah, just shoot me a message and we'll start a conversation. Happy to do what I can for anybody that wants to learn more, for sure. I try to, I used to do the whole website stuff and it was too complicated. So I like to keep things simpler now. Like I said,
Yeah,
um, so yeah, on any of those platforms, hit me up. I'm always willing to help and do what I can for people.
awesome. Well, thank you for coming on today. We lost Tim a while ago, but it was great having you.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it, and it was great being here. And thanks to you guys and your son going through everything. I understand how difficult that can be.